Hey everyone, welcome to my modding video for my Solar P1 Pro. So I'm actually going to have to do a quick bit of time travelling because I'd already started modifying things before I'd started recording. So I'm having to record this first part after the fact. So let's time travel and I'll explain what we're going to do. Right, so I'll actually use my old scooter, my Hitway H5, to show you what is going on. So basically the handlebars on my Solar are like this. It's a solid welded T-piece. So what I'd done was, the day that I got my scooter, I set it all up and made sure it was all working properly, and then I got a hacksaw and I chopped that off there, and I just kept the pole and got rid of the handlebars. Right, so now we can travel over to the other machine and show you what's happened. So here we go. So this is it. So what I've done was I chopped the handlebars off there, and I bought a new set of handlebars, which are 780mm mountain bike riser handlebars, except I turned them upside down, so the handlebars actually drop slightly. They are approximately a handlebar's grip longer on each side than standard handlebars, so you get a fair bit. You get that on there and that on there extra. And what else I needed to do was buy a handlebar clamp, and I also bought a shim to go in between the clamp and the stem, but I bought the wrong size. So and I found out in fact that you can't get a shim that fits that gap, so I had to get a custom one made, which my dad did for me because he's good with that sort of thing. So we done that, and then I just whacked my gizmos on, like my wireless turn signals. Are they on? No, they're not on. That's okay. Alright, so that's the handlebars done. Next is I've got all the lights, and I'm going to have to prep all the ends of the cables, so it's like tin them with a bit of solder and then put bullet connectors on it. Then I will have to go over to my dad's to make the brackets so we can mount the lights onto them. Then when I get them back, I'll have to paint them, then I can fit the lights onto them, and then mount the brackets onto the front. The front one will actually go in there. I'll undo those bolts, slide the plate into there, and then put the bolts back down, so that's good. And on the back, it's getting attached to there, which is the pole for the backrest. So that's cool. That's where the rear ones are going. And then once they're mounted, then I've got to wire them up, and it's going to be scary things like these cables for the lights. I'm going to have to cut them, literally just chop them, and hope that everything goes okay. And I'm going to have to do the same for the rear brake lights and for the indicators, which are located just here. I'm going to have to detach them and from inside, and the cables I will run off to my new indicators. So that's the plan. Hopefully it all starts working out. So next part of the video will be me setting up the cables with the bullet connectors and things. So until then, bye. Everybody, so I'm starting the next phase of my scooter modification, which will be prepping all the lights. So I'll see if I can find the camera. There we go. So we've got the wires there. What I need to do is tin them with a little bit of solder, and then I will be putting bullet connectors on them. Hang on. I will be putting bullet connectors on them, a male and a female. Now, some of these lights did actually already come with bullet connectors on them. In fact, this light did. But it was the male end, which is that one. It's like the little pin. And I want the female end, which is the hole. And the reason for that is all the lights are positioned higher up than where the cables will run. So if there's any water, it'll hit the cable and run down. Now, if you have the female at the bottom, because these are the plastic cases for them, so if you have the female at the bottom and the male at the top, although the male goes inside and it's supposed to be like watertight sort of thing, it's still running down over that seam, and there's a chance that it could run inside. So if I do it that way, the water has no choice but to run down, and it can't go inside the plug. So some of these, as I said, already have the plugs on them, so I've chopped them off and I've trimmed the insulation back, and now I'm going to be tinning them with solder so that I can place them into the bottom of the bullet connector like that, and clamp it down, and then I can put a little dot of solder on there to connect it actually to the pin properly, to ensure I get a good connection. So that's what we're going to be doing, and I shall be back in just a moment. Right, so we twizzle the end so the wires are not all splayed out, and then we put a dot of solder on them. Doesn't matter too much if you make a bit of a mess with the solder at the end, because we can snip those bits off. And there we go. 3 wires which have been tinned. And they will work when it comes to soldering onto there. Like that. There we go. So that's one. Okay. And there's the fourth one. So there we go. That is all of the cables. Well, at least that's all the light wires that have been tinned. So they are ready to have their plugs put on them. So I will do that in just a moment. Okay, so we've got them all turned off, and what we're going to do is take female connectors and we'll put them in there like that, and we'll clamp the wire down, and then we'll clamp the actual soldered, the tinned part down, the bare metal, and then we'll put a little dot of solder onto that just so it helps make ensure that it gets a half decent connection. So we will hang on, before I do that too much, remember to put a sleeve on it. There we go. So we'll fit that back in there like that. Then we'll clamp that one down. Then we'll clamp that one down and give it a good squeeze, and that ensures that it's holding onto the actual wire, the outer insulation. Then we'll give that one a little squeeze, and that one a little squeeze, and then a good squeeze so it clamps it down. Put a sleeve on the other end, on the other wire rather, and then we'll do the same on that one. Whoop. Come here, little fella. Let me try doing this a little bit upside down, but there we go. So we'll hold that there, and we'll clamp that one, and then we'll clamp that one, give it a good squeeze, and then we'll clamp that one, and clamp that one, give that a good squeeze as well. Okay, so we have plugs on, sockets on both because they're females, and put the sleeves on because you won't get those on afterwards. So now what we will do is put a little dot of solder essentially just in there, just so it helps with the connection. Let's have a look, and okay, so I think that's upside down. I just thought I can actually clamp it in there now because that's metal, it's not going to hurt it. Okay, so okay, there's the first one. Ow, that's warm. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. So it's all done now. All we've got the solder in there, which means the wire makes a better connection. So it's just a case of pulling the sleeve over the top, and there we go. And that ensures that we get a nice seal around the back of the cable, and it also means that it will be sealed around this end because the light will be higher, so it'll plug in like that, and this part goes over the outside of the other part. So that's it. I'm just gonna carry on with that and do the others, and then all the lights should be done. So I'll probably fast forward through this bit. Okay, so we're back and it's all done now. So I've got my 4 indicators, which have got 2 females on there, and 2 females, 2 females, and 2 females. I've got my rear running light with the wires on, and I've got my brake light with them on as well. I've got my H4 connector for my headlamp, and I've got my 3-way switch for my high-low beam. So they're all wired up now. So it's, well, they've all got plugs on now, so it's just a case of waiting until I get the brackets back from my dad, which he's making for me, and then I can figure out how long I need to make the cables to go from in between, say, this all the way to the actual cable on the scooter. So there we go. In the next little bit, when you see it, we should be working on the brackets, and then we will work on the rest of the cabling. Just about to head off over to my dad's so we can make the brackets. Then when I come back, I'll prep them and then get them ready for painting. Yay! Okay, so today's when I'm gonna spray up the brackets. So we've got the different parts here. That's the rear bracket, that's the upright for the front bracket, and then that's the stem that will hold the headlamp. And I got a can of primer, and I got a can of matte black. So when we come back, that should be done. Okay, so they've had their last spray of paint, and I'm just waiting for them to dry for a bit, and then I can start fitting the lights again. So the brackets are painted and dried now, so that's nice. Next I will fit the lights back onto them, and then it's just a case of mounting them onto the scooter and then wiring them up. Here we go, that's the brackets finished. Got the lights all fitted on them. That's a headlight, that's a bloody big headlight. But yeah, there we go, all painted up, all the lights fitted on it. Next it's just a case of mounting it on the scooter and then finishing the wiring. It's basically just connecting like these points to the points on the scooter. So there we go. Here she is. So it's all done. The only thing that didn't go to plan was the main headlight. So it turns out a motorbike headlight, although the same voltage, it pulls a hell of a lot more power, and the scooter system doesn't like it. The headlight turns on for about a second and then the entire system shuts itself off for protection. So it's obviously drawing too much power, and I don't want to risk wrecking the battery or anything. So I plumped for a nicer front headlight, well, bicycle light. I'll turn it on and there we go. It's about 4,000 lumens, something like that. It's got a very wide angle of light, so that's good. So that's the only thing that wasn't in my original plan. And there's the tapped off wires from the light power line. So if I do get another light, maybe like one of those 2 big spot scooter lights, which you can get on some sites, I can literally just run it down to there, and that's my 2 power lines that I can tap that off. But okay, on to the rest of it. So while the lights are on, at the back I have my rectangular running light, which is very nice. And I'll try and do this. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but that's my brake lights, and obviously that works without having the bottom light on. And then the piece de resistance, which was the entire reason for the modding, was the indicators. So those are the indicators there that were the original ones, and I basically tapped off the power lines for that, and then ran them up to one here and the ones on the front here. So when we turn it on, we have, there we go. Now I'm in two minds whether to actually disconnect the bottom one, because before it was just running one LED light, which is that. Now it's running three because it's running that one, and the one at the front, which is that. And we'll turn it over to the other ones. Oh, hang on, come on. What's happening? Oh, system turned off. Made me panic. Hang on. I thought the cables had gone wonky again or something. But no. There we go. So, that all works. That's brilliant. But yeah, it wasn't really too hard to wire things in. Essentially, you just find in the cables that go to like the brake light that they had on there originally, and you cut the cable, put new plugs on the end, and then run those cables up to your replacement lights. That's it, really. And it's the same with the indicators. It looks like they actually made provisions for having both rear and front indicators on the system, because inside the cable that goes from the indicator runs to a little circuit board, which is the flasher unit for one side, and obviously like you get the power goes to the flasher unit, and then the cable comes out and goes to the LED light. They actually had two cables coming out, one which went to the rear one and one which goes to nothing. So I used the one that went to nothing, and I tapped both the rear and front indicator off that. So I may well go in and unplug the cable that does the rear one, so that just means I'm running the one front and one rear rather than one front and two rears. So I may well do that at a later date. We'll see how it goes, see if it affects the battery much. If it doesn't, then it's going to be fine. I won't bother. But there we go. So it was a lot of hard work, but we've got it all done. Brackets are made and all the lights and things are on, so that's brilliant. There we go. That is my scooter modding video. I will try and get a nice shot of things a little bit later, out in the sun or something like that, or in the dark actually, because then you'll see the lights even better.